Right. Here we are again. It's definitely that time. It's definitely that time in China. Something needs to happen. I'm going to try to remain calm as we sift through some information to find out what exactly the hell is going on over there. At this point, your guess is as good as mine, quite frankly. But we'll have a look at what we've got and we'll see if we can draw some conclusions. And I think I already have mine from knowing what I'm about to deliver to you. So, China today faces the worst human rights crisis since, not pretty long ago to be fair, since the Tiananmen Square massacre of 1989 and the most severe crackdown on religious freedom since the Cultural Revolution. That is some time ago. So whilst the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP's regime, has always been repressive, that's just a matter of fact and public record, today it stands accused of, I can't believe the list, genocide, forced organ harvesting, repeated breaches of international treaties, an all-out assault on all forms of dissent, civil society activism, or independent media, and to top it off, the cherry on the cake, basically, as far as I'm concerned, they're also warring against faith. So last month, the British House of Commons, for anybody who's unaware, this is where our legislature, our government, and the opposition to our government sit. And if anybody remembers Brexit, this is where they very seldom agree on anything, and yet they have voted unanimously, it's almost unheard of, to recognise the atrocities perpetrated against the predominantly Muslim Uyghur people as genocide. This follows similar motions by the Canadian and Dutch parliaments, an official decision by both the previous and current United States administrations, and that's pretty unusual as well, and a growing body of opinion from both scholars and legal experts. So at the same time, Hong Kong's promised freedoms, rule of law and autonomy have been rapidly dismantled in flagrant violation of the Sino-British Joint Declaration and the city's own mini-constitution known as the Basic Law. Just a small snapshot of Hong Kong. So Hong Kong was under British rule. It's a very long story. It's just a very long story. However, it was given back to the authority of China, as it were, with certain conditions and with certain promises, quite frankly, being made by the British government to the people of Hong Kong. These, on all sides, have been just flagrantly disregarded, basically, and the most awful violence and slanders are going on over there. Hong Kong's jails are basically now filling up with political prisoners. They're not getting tea and bedtime stories or tucked in. It's a pretty serious charge and a pretty serious situation to find yourself in. However, people of conscience have always chosen the right thing to do in very desperate situations, and they're to be admired for their convictions. So most recently, some of Hong Kong's most prominent, most senior, most mainstream, and most internationally respected pro-democracy campaigners, including Christians such as media entrepreneur Jimmy Lai, student leader Agnes Chow, and trade unionist Lee Cheuk Yan, all of them have been jailed. Others, such as the father of the democracy movement, who is a devout Catholic, Martin Lee, and fellow barrister Margaret, I can't pronounce the name, I'm so sorry, Margaret, it's basically spelled NG, received suspended sentences. And for what? You may be asking, and I'm about to tell you, for having participated in a peaceful protest of 2019. And now, just to clarify, this is not a largely peaceful protest, as we see on CNN, where the city's on fire in the background. This was an actual peaceful protest, and yet they were arrested for it and received suspended sentences. And yeah, that's pretty despicable in and of itself. It gets worse though. So meanwhile, repression in Tibet intensifies, and practitioners of the Falun Gong spiritual movement, who I referenced in my video concerning China, I think a couple of days ago, they continue to be targeted, as do Christians in mainland China, Catholic and Protestant. There's no discrimination, as it were, between people already discriminated against. And all of them face intensifying persecution. So it's pretty sickening, but thousands of crosses have been destroyed in recent years. So this all, like, it's basically psyops. You know, the cross in and of itself, you know, it's just a symbol. It's just a symbol, literally. But they wish to destroy publicly these symbols in order to humiliate, to demoralize, they want to communize, basically, and sinicize the Christian church within China and have it adopt communist policies and practices and iconography, etc. So thousands of crosses have been destroyed, whilst churches have been closed, or in some cases just outright, flat out destroyed. In state-controlled churches, for people in the West who enjoy the separation of church and state, these are like just pretty unusual terms in and of themselves. So state-controlled churches, images, excuse me, it's not funny at all, but the irony. So images of China's ruler, Xi Jinping, and the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party propaganda banners, are displayed alongside or in front of, ahead of religious images. Like, how embarrassingly insecure and quite frankly, like, puerile. So surveillance cameras are erected at the altar. Like, that's just disturbing on another level. And young people under the age of 18, so anybody who's not an adult, is banned from all churches, from receiving the sacraments and attending Bible studies. So you may remember me mentioning and banging on about, quite frankly, a mothers' meeting, an actual mothers' meeting was broken up by representatives of the CCP and the authoritarian government there. Literally, like mummies and toddlers sitting around, maybe singing a couple of hymns. Yeah, it was raided, fully armed hench, like idiots, basically. Oh my gosh. Okay, so with these severe restrictions, and they are severe, make no mistake, there are beatings that go on, there's torture. I could, the images that I wanted to use as a screen grab, I'm always a little bit reticent to share, because I don't know who's got access to YouTube, stuff like that. But there are some images that I could share with you. Actually, if you come to Discord, I'd be more than happy to. If you're like an adult, obviously, and you're ready for these images, there's some horrific torture going on in China. Make no mistake about it. And Christians are being bloodied and beaten and restrained and executed, quite frankly. So, excuse me for diverting. With these severe restrictions, perpetuating the faith and attracting new religious vocations among the next generation will prove difficult. And that is the aim of the game, actually. They wish, similar to the left-wing education system within certainly Britain, they wish to stamp out any free thinking and any remnants of any sort of balanced ideas when it comes to freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, that kind of thing. So the Bible and other Christian texts are being censored from the Chinese internet. It's very worrying. Unauthorized possession of Bibles, unauthorized. Can you imagine the horror? I've actually seen a video of some Chinese people receiving Bibles, and the absolute elation. They're so very grateful. Like, it's something we take for granted. It's it is the world's best-selling ever book. It's been reprinted and printed into so many languages. Like, it's, you find them in hotels, you find them in prisons, you find them in hospitals, you find them in all like public sector places, etc. And yet you must have authorization in China. And I don't imagine there are many people who have that, apart from ministers, potentially. So, yep, they will burn your Bible if you do not have authorized possession. The regime is currently retranslating, this is horrifying, and reinterpreting the Bible, and is expected to do so in ways that, let's all take a massive gasp of shock, that serve the goals of the Communist Party. I mean, I have yet to see any, like, seriously, I've looked into communism, quite thoroughly. I think everybody, I don't want to speak for everybody, but, Winston Churchill once said, if you're not a liberal when you're younger, you have no heart. But if you're not conservative, once you're older, you have no brain. And as a young person, I was pretty liberal until I kind of realized, basically, they play on your compassion and they play on empathy, and they demonize, anyone who's not of that same ilk. So communism, I've yet to find one solitary benefit. If anybody knows of any, apart from like comedy material, please do let me know in the description box. In the comment section. So anyway, they want to retranslate and reinterpret. After they've changed the words, they want to change the exegesis on those words to support their own basically failed system of government. And basically, it occurred in the retelling of John's Gospel, the highest Christological gospel, in a 2020 state-sponsored textbook, which depicted the adulterous woman. Hang on, let me just double check this. Oh, wow. Depicted the adulterous woman being stoned to death by Jesus. You just heard it here first, because that's the first I've ever heard of that. Who are these people? Like, who are these just dogs, basically, who want to portray my Jesus, our Jesus, as a murderer? Like, ooh. Okay, so new rules on the selection of Catholic bishops in China make no provision for any papal role in the process. Sorry, I'm not Catholic, but that's still like, sorry, that goes against the kind of ethos, really. So, and that is completely in disregard for the recently renewed Sino-Vatican Agreement of 2018. Bishops who are essential, and that's, definitely, to the life of the Catholic Church, are needed to fill dozens of vacant diocesan posts throughout China, if there are any Catholic priests in the making watching. Okay, so both Catholic and Protestant clergy who refuse to join the state-approved churches face the risk of arrest and imprisonment. Like, that's a heavy job offer. The Catholic Bishop of Baoding Diocese in Hebei Province, whose name is Bishop James Su Jimin, has become one of the world's longest-serving prisoners of conscience. I'm just wondering if there's a way to send him any mail. I imagine it's heavily censored, but I'm going to look into that. Or if somebody could look into that for me, that would be absolutely stunning. Right, so while leading a religious procession in 1996, Bishop Su was taken into police custody 1996. That's a quarter of a century ago, 25 years. He was taken into police custody and has not been heard of since. So probably scratched the writing him a letter, query. Never been heard of since. How atrocious is that? He's okay, so he had already been imprisoned for 26 years. What a soldier for God. Seriously, what an absolute, legend. And severely tortured under Mao Zedong. You must have heard of him, under his rule. So the 70-year-old Catholic Bishop Augustine Kui Tai of, why do they make these words so difficult? Diocese, potentially, Hebei Province, has been in detention without due process for most of the past 13 years. And Bishop, the same bishop that I'm speaking about here, was most recently taken into detention on 19th of June 2020. So for the majority of the last 13 years, and now again he's been taken into custody. Among Protestants, Pastor Wang Yi, one of China's most prominent Christian voices and founders of the underground Early Rain Covenant Church in Chengdu, was sentenced to a 9-year prison term in December of 2019. So not even 2 years ago at the time of this recording. So it is for all these reasons that Asia's most senior cleric, Myanmar's Cardinal Charles Bo, has called for a week of prayer for the church and peoples of China. I would definitely support that. from 23rd to the 30th of May this year. So in 12 days' time, and then for that the entirety of that week. So in his capacity as president of the Federation of Asian Bishops Conferences, Cardinal Bo, who is Archbishop of Yangon, issued a statement on the 14th of March this year, urging the faithful to extend the annual worldwide Day of Prayer for the Church in China, which was designated by whom? In 2007 by Pope Benedict XVI, as the day was designated as the 24th of May. And for any Catholics who are interested, that's the Feast of Our Lady, Help of Christians. Or 24th of May, as Protestants call it. So Cardinal Bo emphasized the need to pray, both for the church specifically and for all the people of China. Like, I often ask for prayers for Boko Haram and ISWAP. Certainly the persecutors need our most fervent prayer. Saying since the start of COVID-19, the peoples of China have faced increasing challenges which impact everybody. And they have a lot of bodies, like, to be frank. It is right that we should pray not only for the church, but for all people in the People's Republic of China. I echo that sentiment. He added, in proposing this week of prayer, I'm expressing my love for the peoples of China, my respect for their ancient civilization and their extraordinary economic growth, and my hopes that as it continues to rise as a global power, horrifying, by the way, he didn't say that, I did, it may become a force for good and a protector of the rights of the most vulnerable and marginalized in the world. I imagine they are churning out the most vulnerable and marginalized in the world at this moment, so they're in a prime position for God to just like literally put his hand over this nation and do a Romans 8:28 on them. Okay, so Pope Francis rightly reminds us, I've said that before I've even read the quote, so here we go. There is also a deeper hunger, the hunger for a happiness that only God can satisfy, the hunger for dignity. And he calls for prayer for each person in China that they may seek and realize the full measure of happiness that our Creator has given to them. Okie dokie, Popey. I would just say, like, pray for their salvation and the delusion to be, like, stripped forcefully from the eyes of the persecutors. So writing 6 weeks, but then again, I'm not the Pope. Writing 6 weeks after a military coup plunged his own country into turmoil, Cardinal Bo said, many parts of the world are currently challenged, including my own country of Myanmar. He is a master of understatement. I've got to give it to Cardinal Bo. But in a spirit of solidarity, it is right to focus not only on our own challenges, but also to pray for others. Amen. In the clear knowledge that their well-being is closely linked to ours. Exactly biblical. Like, yeah, when one suffers, we all suffer. In response to Cardinal Bo's call, there is a website, and it's all one word, globalprayerforchina.org. And that's been launched by an informal coalition of lay Christians from 6 different continents who have joined together to facilitate the Global Week of Prayer. I hope to post a link to that in the description if someone nudges me. The website features resources for parishes and individuals, including up-to-date information on the persecution of Christians in China, as well as the genocide of Uyghurs, repression in Tibet, the dismantling of democracy and human rights in Hong Kong, wow, and other injustices and threats to human dignity throughout China. It includes profiles of individual prisoners of conscience, that's the bunny, and pastoral resources for prayers and homilies. Cardinal Bo's call is right, courageous, and timely. It must not fall on deaf ears. Are you hearing this, people? Not on deaf ears. In 2 weeks, I don't know when this was written, but yeah, in 12 days or so, I hope that Christians, well, it says Catholics and Christians more broadly, so I'm going to say Christians, as they're known around here, around the world will take up this request and devote time to, prayerfully consider China individually and collectively. Individually, you could be here until the Son of Man returns if you would try to, but yes, these prisoners of conscience, most certainly, the leaders in that country, most definitely, the, members of the CCP who are putting out these ridiculous authoritarian crackdowns on any theism whatsoever. They need prayer like a slap in the face, basically, which is what I'm saying they need also. So we can do that, en masse, at a mass. in groups, individually also. So after a year in which the world has been plunged into crisis by the, we've been talking about it forever, the pandemic, evidence of a new genocide is most distressingly mounting. So a place that was until recently one of Asia's most open cities has become a closed and repressed territory of fear. And the church faces a level of persecution not seen for decades. And it is right to pray for the church and people suffering under the regime responsible for these acts of inhumanity and mendacity. It is absolutely right, both morally and in a sense of activism, to pray for China. So I ask you, personally, I'm asking you, obviously, and so are the writers of this article, please do pray for China. Also North Korea, like any shady atheistic communist regimes, like North Korea has been at the top of the 50 top countries for persecution of Christians. They are partly responsible for the high to extreme levels of persecutions that 340 million Christians around the world are facing right now today as we speak. There's another Christian nurse in Pakistan who's been accused of blasphemy. There's a young girl who's just been killed in Pakistan. I'm just trying to get her surname so I can get some more information. There's just individual and there's just group outrages. Nigeria, come on now. There's mass graves, there's abductions en masse, 200 school kids at a time, hundreds never returned. There's rapes, machete attacks. There's people just rolling into villages, setting fire to everything. Thousands and thousands of people internally displaced. And then by the time they may or may not be blessed with a place in not an internment camp, like an internally displaced people's camp, those camps are then targeted by these jihadis, these what I like to call scumbags in the privacy of my own head usually. But yeah, there's people there are our brothers and sisters, should I say, who are suffering on a level that, please God, none of us ever have to experience firsthand. I don't know how to, I don't know how to make it as important to you as it is to me. Just please, even if your only prayer is that God would reveal to you a way in which you can help, or just, pray for a purpose, for a focus for your abundance of faith, which I'm sure that you have. You can write to persecuted Christians through some links that I'll give you if anybody wants to ask. You can, just literally an email, costs nothing, doesn't take up any mental real estate in your mind. You just tap, boom, and it's gone. And somebody somewhere will just be ever so grateful. And imagine the horror if it ever, I have viewers in quite numerous places around the globe. And I pray certainly that if this ever comes to a town near you, and God forbid it's any of our blood relatives, that somebody similar to me potentially will be banging on about it somewhere else, and that those people listening to them will also listen, as I'm sure you do to me. Thank you so much for listening. Right. So I think that's all I have to say about that. For some reason, oh yeah, I can see the live chat. No, I think I can't. It's frozen. Okay. Yeah, I can see it. Yes. All right. Thank you for your prayers. Do continue them. Also, actually, yes. So just harping back to the fact that Christian online forums are being closed down, Bible apps are being outlawed, hard copy Bibles are unavailable for purchase in China. If you, as I already referenced and as I already feel the absolute blessing of being freely, able to open a Bible on your phone or in hard copy, I've got quite a few actually behind me. If you feel this blessing, if you feel that is something to be joyful about, and you don't just remember it as quite a sort of stuffy, maybe a book from Sunday school, you are more than welcome to join me and at least one of my admins, actually, a couple of other people that I know who are well versed in the faith. We collaborate within Bible plans. I don't know how to put it. Yeah, we join up in Bible plans on an app called YouVersion. And I will remember to post it in the description box. You just click on it, you look for SOCO Films, you send me a little friend request, and then I can always send you invites, because some of the plans last for 5 days. You can do an entire Bible plan. I'm already partway through again. That you can choose, 2-week plans, 5-day plans, 3-day plans, 21-day plans, like to suit your needs. And it's literally potentially 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, if you just have 1 or 2. So if you're not able to do that, God bless you. If you're not willing to do it, why not? And I'd love to know the answer. Obviously, if you're Muslim, you need not give me your reasoning. I hear it quite often. Okay, so I didn't have to actually use my tiny violin, which I sometimes use for the persecution bids when I hear an excuse being trotted out by jihadis. But I live in hope that I won't ever have to use it, actually. But the day will come again soon. All right, lots of love. Please do like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in this evening's premiere, I'm sure. And until then, I pray that God will bless you and keep you safe until then. Bye-bye.